white. And I said, what's happening? What does this mean? And he goes, it means we're going to die. And I was like, die? Excuse me? And okay, so this was 20 years ago. It was a lot hotter. But I looked at him and I said, do I look like death? Does me and this unborn child look like death to you? No, I don't die. You don't die. And when you married me, you promised me that my life would get better. You never said anything about death. So you go down to your little office, which was a hallway down in our house, because we didn't have staff. We didn't have employees. He officed out of his house. I said, you don't come out of there until you figure this thing out. And he did, and he came back to me, and that's a whole other long story. But it was at that moment I realized, shoot, this man needs me. He needs help. I'm not going to let him think he's a failure. That man with that much energy, I'm not going to let him be scared for 1 second. What am I doing playing this game? I'm married to a man, and I can't depend on him? Find the one you trust and build an empire. Why did I marry him if I don't trust him, if we can't get together and build an empire? So I told him, he came to me and he was like, look, I wrote a book, my first book. It's not going to make us rich. It's a book, but I know what to do and I'll never make you worry about money again. And I said, good, I can one up you. I've already envisioned this whole entire thing called an empire, and I'm here to support you. Show active interest in the success of you. Be willing to be strong enough to bear the weight of you and the empire that we are about to create. I will make myself be strong enough to endure whatever we need to go through to build this empire. And that's when it dawned on me that these times, these scary times, are the times that the biggest opportunities come from our lifetime. And I believe now that we're in and about to approach one of these once in maybe a century opportunity that Grant and I are ready for. And I'll tell you why we're ready for it. Because we've invested money, time, and energy, like you guys are doing right now, into ourselves. People ask me all the time, what would you do if you lost all of your money? I'm like, well, it wouldn't take us half as long the second time as it did the first time. Why? Because there are things you can't take away from me. You can't take away my knowledge. You can't take away my fortitude, my strength, my ability to read people, understand red flags, who to avoid, who not to avoid, who to do business with, not do business with. People look at my plane, they think show off. You know what I see when I see my plane? I see Super Bowl ring. I see trophy. I see, it's true. Every single time I'm like, that is badass. That is badass. And if you've never flown private, you should do that one time in your lifetime. It is freaking badass. And I see all the things that we did right. All the things we did right. You can see in that plane us being together, working together. You can see all the successes. That's clear. What you can't see is you can't see all the things that we did right because we didn't get involved. Empires are destroyed from within. When I can plan who my enemy is, when I know who my enemy is, I can plan for that. When you don't know who your enemy is and there happen to be the person right next to you inside your empire, they do the most damage. So that plane signifies, okay, you know what? That was a lawsuit I avoided. Theft, whatever. I mean, the list goes on of all the damage these people do when they come inside of the empire, right? So, y'all liking this so far? Yeah. So the thing, I want to get back on track briefly, and then I'll go off again. The thing that I want you to understand now is we are embracing this AI. I am not the expert on AI. You're going to hear from the experts today. I'm the expert on empire building, badassery, and I'll tell you quickly, and then I'll finish here. I'll tell you the biggest secret, other than us really other than Grant and I getting on the same page, figuring out a big purpose, figuring out our roles in order to achieve that. Dang, there's so much I want to tell y'all. I just want y'all to know everything. The second biggest secret to our success is we don't do normal. So this is so huge. I don't do normal. We don't do normal. I don't live from the past to the present. I know that sounds like a very odd concept, but it wasn't until I was able to sever the cord between living from the past to the present that my whole entire future changed. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. I used to live from the past to the present, meaning from now, take away that I've become already successful. Take that away. So in present time, if I had only gone from my past, I would attend something or learn something and go, oh, that didn't work. Oh, I'm still a failure. Oh, I'm this. See, I live from the past, and there's this continuous cycle because the future hadn't been attained yet. So the biggest secret is be, do, have. Be, do, have. So mock up the picture of who you want to be in the future. I live from the future. This self that you're seeing now is presently experiencing my future from 10 years ago. From that moment, or however long it is, it's more than 10 years ago, because I created this mock-up in 2008 and what our empire would look like. And I described it all to Grant. We're flying private. I want to do world travel. I want to inspire, I want to help you reach 8 billion people on planet Earth. I want them winning from our products and services. Da, 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 da. This is what I'm going to do. This is what you're going to do. This is, you get to be the boss of this. I will, give you, I will give you help and support. You be the boss of that area. I get to be the boss of this area. You don't come into my territory. I don't come into your territory. I operate mine at 100%. You operate at yours at 100%. We don't do 50-50. It's 100-100. I'll make sure. I'm so busy making sure all of my roles are booming that I don't have time to go, try to fix up him, because I got my own roles that I'm doing and booming. So we mocked up this huge picture, reverse engineer. So that's the have, right? The have that I have now was the have that I had in the future. Very unrealistic. We were on the verge of losing it all. We were going broke. We had no employees. This was sacrifice phase. What did we need to do? We need to do self-enhancement, education. What do we need to know? What are the processes? What are the systems? Who do we trust? Who we don't trust? Who's the red flags? What's not the red flags? How do I get this? How do I understand finances? I was a visual person. I was an actress. I never understood entrepreneurialism. I never understood finances. I'm speaking really fast because I only have two minutes left. I feel like the auctioneer. Okay, stay focused, okay? So we did. So you have your future. You hold that. Reverse engineer, do all of the actions that you need to do. Who do I need to become? And be it right now. Be it right now. I'm already that empire owner. I'm already that billionaire. I'm already crazy concept. Okay. If you knew me from my New Orleans days, okay, y'all, like for real, billionaire, like that don't happen to my people. Okay. From New Orleans, like my group, that's like cringeworthy. That's like not supposed to happen. But you hold it, you be it, you wear it like a hat, like a fireman, a policeman. What would a billionaire, or whatever your picture is, what would the best wife, the best mother, what would the best student, what does that look like? If you are already a billionaire right now, do you care what's happening right now in the market? Do you care that you lost some big $30,000 commission to your friend and they called their whoever? Do you care? Like really, if you really 1,000,000% knew that was who you are in the future, would you care? Would you care? You wouldn't care. You wouldn't even remember it in 5 years from now. You'd be like, oh my God, that was so ridiculous. But what does a billionaire do? They understand money. They understand the game. They're professional. They have so much value add. They've self-enhanced and enriched themselves. The person that I am today is not the person that I was in 2008. I had no idea. No idea. There are things that you know. There are things that you don't know. And the rest of the ginormous pie is what you don't know that you don't even know. And that's where you get to. When you understand empires, when you understand business, when you understand money, mindset, relationships, when you understand how to manifest all the pillars that it takes to build an empire, when you start investing in knowing what you don't know, you're nothing can get you. It starts with people. Empires start with people. But nothing can hurt you when you have abundance of resources, finances, integrity, wealth. You can sustain a hit. When you have people, it takes people in an empire. You know how to get along with people. When they're all sold into the mission. When they've got the same core values as you, nothing can stop you because it's people that have everything you want. So before I leave, I'll give you a QR code if you're interested in learning more about an empire. I'm happy to help you. I have a booth here. Someone will be manning the booth. Build an empire. Become a badass. And for all of those that think you can build an empire, you can. And because you can, you must. Thank you, everybody.
Wow. I mean, what do you come with that? I mean, just incredible. Can we get one more round of applause for Elena, please? Incredible. All right. How's everyone feeling? Everyone doing good? All right. Is Miami waking up yet? All right. Well, let's get into some tech stuff, shall we? We're going to have a little panel right now. And everyone, guys, this panel right here is probably, I'm excited for this. We have phenomenal people coming up here. Let me just tell you just a little bit about them, and then we'll get them on stage. Lizeth Jaramillo is the first realtor to NFT a home in Orlando. Her excitement and passion for the evolving Web3 ecosystem in real estate has rooted her into the community of innovation. A proud member of the Women of Web3 community, and featured speaker in the United Nations 78 Science Summit in this year. She is on a mission to reshape the way investors approach transactions by leveraging blockchain and NFTs, and she is the founder, of Millar.ai, and truly just a good human being. We also have Christina, is a serial entrepreneur who landed in the real estate space. She is the CEO of Christina's Creighton Group, which is a leader in luxury real estate right here in Miami, Florida. She is a master of team building and actually has teams in 4 different countries. She is a close confidant to Elena Cardone, a business partner, and you actually might be able to see her at the ice rink landing a triple Lux. So good job, Christina. We also have Anna Bozovic. I can sum this panel up with her in one word: impressive. She has studied math and physics at Columbia, founder of Miami Analytics. Her predictions of real estate markets are unmatched, and she has over and over and over again provided feedback and predicted where the current real estate market is. So what's that mean? Being a real estate agent also, she can actually place herself in front of the trend before it even occurs. Phenomenal. She is the host of Ask Anna Show. She is the governor of the Miami Association of Realtors, and you wouldn't want to cross her in an alley because she is a jiu-jitsu MMA fighter. Anna, awesome. Who am I missing out? Where am I? Ivania, come up here. I already introduced you, hon. And then Daniel Hutt. Daniel Hutt, you out there? No? Okay. There you are, Daniel. Daniel Hutt is the broker at Daniel Hutt Realty, Tampa Bay. He has entered the blockchain space in so many ways, but is really leading the force in real estate, in training his agents, not only in real estate, but also in blockchain and how that's going to be happening too. So, Daniel, welcome. And of course, we have Laura Cole, what we call LC. LC is a blockchain and emerging tech attorney who helps build entrepreneurs navigate a complex legal system. LC is a prominent speaker of conferences around the globe. Just got back from what? Italy. 3 weeks out there. Amazing. She is a mentor and Stanford AI and Web3 Research Lab. Awesome. Incredible. Welcome. How about a round of applause for them? Well, I'm actually going to just stand over here then. All right. Well, hi, guys. How y'all feeling? Everyone good? Everyone have microphones on? Want to actually start talking actually about Ivania really quick. And Ivania, I wanted to ask you a question because Ivania was a real estate agent that did not want to get into the tech world, right? She was afraid of the blockchain. However, you guys, she worked with Propy, and now she transacts every single real estate on chain. And so I kind of want to just talk to you, Ivania, of how that kind of landscape changed for you, and how did you go from traditional to now being forward thinking, and then what do you see in the future?
Yes, absolutely. So, as he said, I was so hesitant at first because it's a new system. Florida doesn't have like a one streamlined platform to use all across, and my career started in Colorado, so I was used to using a different platform. But when I discovered Propy, I came to the summit last year, learned a lot about what is happening in the future, which is already here happening in front of us. I just decided to jump in. And that was my first step. And now I cannot go back. I send all of my offers, whether it is on the buying side or on the listing side. It's just how everything is so transparent from the buyers, the sellers, the title company, the lender. It's really easy to see in live time. So if I'm traveling or if I'm out of town, I'm already ahead of the curve. I'm not missing a beat. So that's why I think Propy being such a great platform, I see in the future that Florida could implement this platform for all the agents to use for transparency purposes. That's what I see in the future.
Awesome, thank you. And Anna, analysts.
Hello.
Right? That is what you're all about. What I want to ask is on a macro level, the shifts that we've seen in real estate has definitely been observed and felt throughout. What kind of shifts in new technologies do you see in real estate, and how are people adapting to them?
Well, I want to put this answer within the context of inevitability of change. There's this sort of fallacy in human nature and resistance to change. The fallacy is that people tend to think that how life is how life will continue to be. And that is the opposite of the truth. If we think about it, we have this device that was magic 20 years ago. In the middle of the 20th century, we had floors of offices filled with people using typewriters, typing, because that's their job, and they were replaced by computers. So this progression towards AI is the next inevitable shift in our progression of how we use technology. So it's not a question of is it going to happen? It's a question of when and how quickly. And I think that as real estate professionals, the faster one accepts that, the easier it will be for one to position oneself ahead of that curve and avail oneself earlier than others and get that itch. Because it is about positioning yourself in front of trends, be they market trends. Like, for example, now we have this tremendous shift in economic focus in our country away from 20th century capitals such as New York City towards new ones such as South Florida. And this is going hand in hand with technological shifts, which are sort of supercharging each other. Because COVID, in essence, here's what's important to recognize. It supercharged our departure from 20th century ways of life and 20th century capitals. The way that we went to work, the way that we use technology, the way we structured our days and our businesses, all of these constructs were already in place before the internet. People are creatures of habit. COVID came and broke habits and allowed for the adoption of new ones. And this adaptation of AI is the next step. I mean, Collins Dictionary said that the word AI was the word of the year. So it's on everyone's mind. And then what is AI if we're talking about it, right? What do we all think AI is? I think that fundamentally it's machines that can solve problems for us, that can think, whatever that means, what machines think, and solve problems for us. That means that they can make us better at what we do, make us faster, make us more efficient. And I think that especially for young agents, they can get that edge over people who are older and perhaps more resistant to change. So that's where I say it's going. I think it's going towards making us better at what we do, certainly not replacing us, because you can't replace that human interaction, especially in a business like real estate.
Yeah, and that's it. Real estate is such a relationship-based business. Real estate agents are always going to have a job, always have a place, right? Christina, you being one of the luxury agents here today, so much growth. What AI are you guys using on your guys' teams to kind of get yourself ready for the future and to make yourself relevant to today's market?
Thank you for that question. I love what you said, Anna, because, and I'll jump right into answering your question. AI is changing the way we do real estate, whether we like it or not. I was one of those people that was resistant to change. Before I was a real estate agent, I was a reporter. And I remember sitting and doing a story and having an idea of how one day we're going to be here. I didn't realize it was going to happen this fast, where we have technology that's helping us move our business forward faster. And the technology is still new. One of my favorites that I'm using right now, I'm sure, I just want to quickly poll the room. How many of you are using ChatGPT, just out of curiosity? Okay, good. So there's some context here, because some agents don't even know what AI is. So there's a lot of people here that are moving forward with change, and that is a great thing. That means you're going to be a leader in your industry, and the rest of the people are going to fall off. Our team is using it to speed up the process with less error, and so I'm more available to be in front of my client and communicate effectively with data that has been verified and found using AI. As a reporter, I don't know if anyone's here been a reporter, you have to research, and that took time, it took energy, it took a lot of energy to get that information, and now it's at our fingertips. The technology is verifying the internet quickly. One of my favorite things to do is, for example, when I'm doing a live, or if I'm preparing for an appointment, some of the key topics that are trending right now online in regards to real estate, I used to have to go and seek out information through news outlets. Now it just comes by asking a simple question, and this technology is interacting with you. So I think it's really, really useful. It's made me more efficient and saves me and my team a lot of time.
Cool, thank you. Daniel, do you have anything to add to that?
Thank you. Yes, I agree exactly with everything that you mentioned. And I believe that speed is everything in real estate. You have to be fast. You snooze, you lose. You have to go for it. And I think Propy is doing an awesome job providing the tool to be fast. We like the option to send the offers to our listing sellers fast and be able to act on it immediately, so we don't lose opportunity. So speed is essential. I think that's very good. And I think technology is going to only enhance this, make it better. I don't think there's any room for the agent to disappear, because you do have that relationship like you mentioned. And I think the technology is just going to enhance, be a tool for every agent to be more successful. I think the key in real estate is leverage, and this is going to provide the leverage for all of us to be better at what we do.
Great point. Lizeth, you are, I think, way ahead of the game when it comes to blockchain. You were looking at it years ago in the real estate space now. You've seen the change from going very traditional to now blockchain, and you're speaking at the UN and all these events. What are some trends that you're seeing? And do you feel that agents now are getting more on board with the new technology, trusting AI, taking a dive into blockchain? What are just some of the trends that you're seeing with agents?
Well, definitely the trends. ChatGPT is everywhere out there, not only obviously in real estate, but it has certainly become this tool that will help us to scale our businesses. ChatGPT came, or not AI as a whole, came as a great tool for us to just focus and bring in more business, become better expertise, and also leverage this knowledge. Because it's not just the profit side, it's also about the knowledge and being able to bridge this gap between the investors and what's out there for them. Like Ms. Cardone said, we are in a new era where a lot of opportunities, and we can take these opportunities to our investors. At the end of the day, that's what we're here to give knowledge and guidance so we can all overcome new recessions and geopolitical tension times, and we can all thrive as long as we go on the good side of the technology, and that's what we're here for as well.
Especially with ChatGPT, there's a little bit of trust, like you said, right? We're just asking questions, we're receiving an answer, and we just kind of say, okay, well, that's just what that's what the answer is. LC, what kind of legal things are you getting into and seeing out there, and how do we protect ourselves?
Yeah, so it's a rapidly evolving space, but there's definitely some pitfalls and some friction in this space because the laws haven't quite caught up yet. So what we're seeing is a lot of concern about what information is shared with the AI and then how that information is used. Attorneys, there's several tools for attorneys like Spellbook where you can have an add-on to your Microsoft Word and add clauses. But it gets really scary when you don't know how they're pulling their data or if they're using your contracts in their database, because now you've breached attorney-client privilege. And there's certain confidentialities that real estate markets have to follow, and basically any industry, there's standards. So it's really the data privacy that's at the top of the concern in terms of the AI aspect of things, because you don't sit down and read the terms. No one has sat down and read the terms of use for ChatGPT, but most people in this room have raised their hand to say, I've used ChatGPT. So you don't really know where that data is going. And there's already been some case law where engineers have uploaded their proprietary code into certain AI models to test it. And now that proprietary code is arguably not necessarily proprietary anymore because it's been shared, and that will be litigated in time. But as you know, the law is slow and technology is fast. So we, as lawyers in this space, try and advise best practices, because you'll be essentially setting these best practices as you go. So these points of friction need to be worked out quickly because the technology is only going to get more pervasive. And once this snowball takes off, it's going to get too big to really stop. So you want to be thoughtful about how you're using the tech today. In terms of blockchain use, Propy is doing a great job of trying to put things on chain and really bringing that torch of getting all titles on chain, which would really transform the real estate industry as a whole. But even the more creative uses that we're seeing, forming DAOs, which are decentralized autonomous organizations to kind of fractionalize real world assets, or just generally using real world assets and partnering them on the chain, which is called twinning. So you're seeing all of this kind of get worked out on the fly. But when you're in that realm, now you've got two areas of law to work with. You've got the traditional law of whatever real estate item that's not changing. And now you've got this added layer of blockchain and securities and AML, KYC, data privacy, because you're putting it on chain. So the regulatory lift or the legal lift becomes a little bit elevated when you're navigating all of that. And that's basically what we do in our practice is try and navigate that and create best practices for what's reasonable given the law isn't quite caught up yet.
You have your work cut out for you. I know. Awesome. Thank you for that. Lastly, we got to just kind of sum these things up. I just kind of want to go around the panel really quick. If we were to close our eyes and in 10 years we open them again, what does real estate look like for us? Daniel, let's start with you.
I actually believe that real estate is going to change drastically in the next years, like we heard everybody talk about it. I still believe that the agent is going to be the key, and the technology is going to help the agent get to a different level of productivity. The agent is going to be having all these tools, like it was explained before, that AI is going to provide, and the security of the Web3 and everything else, the blockchain. And I believe that the agent is going to have a lot more opportunity in the future than we see it today. I think that's going to grow tremendously in the next couple of years.
The way I see it, I feel 10 years from now, we are going to be doing click and buy transactions, and realtors will become more like data miners. We're going to make sure that information is being placed, it is the correct one, and certainly, obviously, guiding when we mine this data, or even guiding the sellers more. It's going to be a seller's market, I think. And so that's where we're still going to be needed, but definitely friction is going to be out of the way, and it's just going to be a trustless system as a whole.
I think in general, 2 words: more efficient and more virtual. And I think we're going to continue to see a divergence in the high end and the low end segments of our market, which is, I think, going to be part of our country's ongoing wealth polarization and geographic polarization that we have now. So at the we have recession fears, whatever downward indicators, and then you have cars that cost over $500,000 a year taking in, clocking in a record sales volume. So at the high end of real estate, which is our best performing segment here in South Florida, if you isolate our market on a price per square foot, past 2,000 a square foot, we're many multiples ahead of pre-COVID levels. So that's all part of geographic and wealth gap polarization. At the high end, it's going to remain personal. I do not think it's data mining at the high end. At anything that's a more of a ubiquitous sort of volume-driven lower end business, more efficient and more virtual. And I just want to emphasize, I think this is a very exciting time to be number one in South Florida, and number two, to be sort of at this advent of the next iteration of how we use the internet and computing. So we're all lucky to be here.
I definitely believe that in the next 10 years, we're going to have less realtors in the industry because human beings as a whole, we're not comfortable with change. And as you can see in this event, which Propy is doing an amazing job, if you're not following them for all the latest trends on social, you should do that because it puts you ahead of the curve. So it's going to eliminate a lot of realtors who are not keeping pace with all the evolving technologies that are helping us streamline the business. Do I think AI is going to remove real estate agents entirely? Absolutely not. We have the most important task, and you have to keep this in mind. The communication with your clients, with your investors is extremely important. Yes, AI is helping us leverage that and speed it up, but you cannot remove that. I think the biggest and most expensive currency is going to be communication and having that trust and moral ethics between your clients, and AI is just a bonus to help us get those transactions done more efficiently.
So I agree with everything that Dave had said. So 2 words for me would be efficiency and transparency. And, for agents here in this room, the future is here. Whether, you want to participate in this evolving change, that's optional, but getting on board the sooner the better, so that, you are basically moving ahead of the curve. That would be my my advice to these agents here in this room.
I think we'll see a lot of tokenization, fractionalization of real estate. But I think with that, as Anna said, we've seen a change in our values, our value proposition. So as that develops, I think we'll see creative solutions, so that tokenization or fractionalization of real estate might come with tiered ownership. That tiered ownership could look like a life estate, and all of a sudden life estates are popular again, or this new mechanism for a varied ownership model. So I think you're going to see really creative solutions because the value proposition is changing. There's a shift, especially as millennials get a stronger portion of the wealth to spend. Their interest might not be in home ownership. It might be in fractionalized ownership or co-op style living. So that'll lead to more creative solutions. And as that develops, and the tech develops, you'll really start to see innovation get pushed and new models for what ownership looks like getting pushed.
Fractionization later today. Can't wait to dive into that. Thank you so much. Congratulations on all your guys' success.
How are we doing? Fantastic. Has it been valuable for you so far? A lot of insights, right? Amazing. We're running about 15 minutes late with the agenda, but we'll definitely be on time right after the lunch. Our next panel, as soon as we get the slides on, here it is. It's the future of real estate, empowered by diverse leaders. An amazing, outstanding panel because there are many changes that are happening right now in the real estate industry. Lawsuits are happening. We will discuss those. And by the way, we are having gamification during the summit. We will show the slides. If you reach out to Propy team, where is the Propy team with Propy t-shirts? If you reach out to our Propy team, you can get Propy tokens if you will do certain things. If you have Coinbase account, if you have a Propy account, if you do Google reviews, if you fill out a survey about the summit, there are a number of awards. And in the end, we will choose the winner, whoever will get the biggest reward. So welcome on stage, Melissa Medina from Emerge. I call her the mother of tech in Miami. The next 10th Emerge conference will be in April next year, the 10th one. Next, Martha Moiser from California, the president of Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, California. Martha, thank you so much for joining us today. Leslie Smith, past president of NAR, the National Association of Realtors. Thank you so much for joining and flying over to Miami. Rebecca Hidalgo Reigns, Berkshire Hathaway, Arizona, and Ariana Pareja, the president of Foundation Ariana Pareja Foundation. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Natalia. First and foremost, thank you for the opportunity to moderate such an esteemed panel. I'm excited to be here again at the Propy Summit. Always excited to see the intersection of real estate and technology. I born and raised here in Miami and actually grew up in a family business of real estate that then in the late 90s, early 2000s, went completely into technology. So it's a very long story that I'm not going to get into, but that's sort of a little bit of background of my intersection between real estate and technology. With that being said, we're gonna get started. I'm gonna start with something that I think is a little bit of a sensitive topic, and I think also extremely relevant. And I'm sure that many of you have been talking about this over the last several weeks and days, and that is, about the Sitzer-Burnett trial. And some may want to discuss it and some may not, but I thought, it's something important and relevant. And really, it's just a general question just about your thoughts and how should agents be sort of thinking about this over the next 2 or 3 years. So just general thoughts around it and introductions as well, please. Anyone can start that would like to.
Hello. Oops, I think I just started ahead of you, Ariana. I didn't mean to. I was just testing out the mic, guys. My name is Rebecca Hidalgo Reigns. I'm from Arizona. I have been practicing real estate full-time for 30 years now. Got my license in '93. So when I look back at my career, wow, just in the last 10 years, that last question in the last panel I thought was very poignant. And so when you're talking today about the commissions. My team has been freaking out all year. I mean, everybody has been freaking out all
I'm
year.
sure.
Right. And, then I look back to 2007. That was very pivotal in my career. I was a sales manager for a local home builder, having to fire all my agents, talk about scary times. And I don't feel like we're there at all right now. And so anytime my team came to me with fear-based type of questions, concerns, like, guys, focus on what you can focus on. What's in front of you? Focus on that. Don't worry about stuff you have no control over. Manifest your destiny. I think that's a common thread with everybody, to quit sweating about things you have no control over. We don't have any control over what happens with that court case, but I guarantee you things will change on how we're doing things. And the best thing you can do is educate yourself and stay prevalent in the industry so that you know what's happening tomorrow, today. That is always my advice.
Yeah, that's a great point.
I completely agree with you. I second that. I got into the real estate industry when I was 18 years old, been through the downturn of 2007, 2008, seen the boom and the crash and everything in between. I think at the end of the day, though, it's just too early to tell. Like, we don't know what's going on yet. So to sit there and lose sleep at night, it's just not productive.
Too many questions.
It's just too many questions. Like, this could weeks, months, years to actually be implemented, if it ever does. And you've got two ends of the bookcase here. On one end, it could just be a simple, disclosure statement or something of the sort, or it could be as extreme as the DOJ getting involved and saying no more, commissions in that structure, and it could change. But the reality of it is, we don't know yet. So there's no point in freaking out about it. Just work on your value proposition, as you mentioned, and just persevere forward.
Agreed.
You know what? I might.
Here.
Okay. Hi. Thank you for asking the $1.78 billion question. Thank you. Leslie and I are probably going to take the fifth here because we're both defendants in the case. Well, our companies, our organizations are. But I do want to say a little something about it procedurally. My name is Martha Mosier. I'm the president of Berkshire Hathaway Home Services California Properties. And I've also been a real estate attorney for 30 years. So I'm very familiar with the legal system. And while we respect very much the legal process and the system, we strongly believe that this verdict was not supported by the evidence. And Leo alluded to it, Elsie alluded to it, so many of the speakers have alluded to it, but these headlines are clickbait. They are a lot of emotion, a lot of bombastic headlines. And by the way, for those of you that are not attorneys, when you have a headline that says, devastating landmark case, guess what? Cases are not cases until they're final. So suffice it to say, this verdict is going up on appeal. The defendants will be likely appealing this in the next 30 days. And like Ariana said, we're not looking at any laws that are going to come out of this for at least 2 to 3 years. Tech is quick. Legal is not. I think Elsie said that on the last panel. So hang in there. It is going to be business as usual. We really believe that buyers and sellers are entitled to representation by subject matter experts. And we believe that the laws and the systems, the MLS system that we currently have, and the business model is very, very pro-consumer. Pro-competition, but more importantly, pro-consumer. In fact, if you look up an article right now or a paper that has been written on what if this happens, what if we go to a different business model, it says the name of the paper is Careful What You Ask For. Because how many in here are real estate agents? Just so I know. Okay, right on. I am too. So how many of you are homeowners? How many of you were first-time owners at one time? A lot of us. I remember the first time that I bought a home, I took every single penny that I had to purchase a home and borrowed a little money from dad. And you know what? I wouldn't have been able to buy that home if I had to pay the buy-side commission. So we really believe that the verdict as it is right now is definitely going to have an unintentional, desperate impact on first-time homebuyers, veterans, and those individuals in the middle to lower income levels. So we are fighting the fight. And, like Ariana said, we're talking years from now. And one very smart woman once said, if there is a bend in the road, it's not the end of the road, unless, of course, you forget to turn at the bend. So we will adapt and we will change some rules and the ways we do business, but it's not the end of the real estate business.
Well said.
So I'm sure I'm everyone's favorite person in the world as the 2022 president of the National Association of Realtors. And the year I was elected in 2019 is when this was filed, this lawsuit. So I've lived it through my entire leadership journey, which is over 2 weeks from today. I'm not counting or anything. I was conceived in real estate. My father started his company when my mother was pregnant with me. For anyone who's from the Midwest, it was HER Realtors, Harley E. Ruda, and in company way back when. And then he also started Real Living, which was actually another brand under Home Services with Berkshire Hathaway. Unfortunately, it did not survive COVID. On the Sitzer issue, I'll tell you what I know that is factual. So this lawsuit came out of Missouri, and there are copycat lawsuits I'm sure you are also aware of. And they're both on the buyer side and on the seller side. So we're getting it from all directions. We are fighting more lawsuits than we've ever fought in our 116-year history. In Missouri, they represented about 0.5% of home sales in 2022. Don't forget, we have 49 more states and 4 territories. So this could be just the beginning of what's to come. Let's hope it's not. Yeah. What they did was they picked 4 MLSs. They went in to see what was being offered to the co-broker, and that's where 1.78 billion came from. Now keep in mind, this is what was in the MLS system. This does not mean that it ever closed or any money changed hands. Wow. Of the 8 jurors, 4 were homeowners, 4 were not. So there are a lot of balls in the air, as you can imagine. Yes, we will be appealing it. I'm sure everyone would have expected that. There's also clearly a lot of other things going on at the National Association of Realtors. And if you don't know about those, you are living under a rock. Because it's been mind-blowing that this much can happen in this short of time. Just a couple recommendations I would make to you is to go to the website that we have, competition.realtor or thedifference.realtor. Real Estate Commission Facts is another one. These are all sites that we have at NAR. But if you want to make it super easy, go to nar.realtor and put in the search bar what you're looking for, and it will direct you there. But there are a lot of things that we as realtors could and should be doing. And one thing we're not very good at, unless we want to toot our horn, of course, about our production, is talking about the other things we do. Because don't forget that people out there think that, oh my gosh, did you know Susie Q sold $10 million? They think you made 10 million, y'all. They don't understand how this works. They think we make too much money. Mm-hmm. So we need to be more careful. Excuse me. Another thing, when we were in the height of the market in the last few years with all the multiple offers, I mean, I had someone that I knew, I thought, you know better than this. But she got on social media and said, after making offers on 18 homes and being amongst 51 offers on this property, I'm so happy my buyers finally got it. I mean, what kind of message do you think things like that send to the general public? If it's like that, I'm not buying a house right now. That's crazy. So that's what we're for, to overcome those objections, overcome interest rates, low inventory, whatever it may be. But I am going to be here for a little while. If anybody has any questions they want to ask me, I'll be happy to answer what I can.
Thanks.
I am not an attorney, though.
Thanks, Leslie. And I just want to say,
I brought my attorney with me, though.
so well spoken, all of you. And I just want to say how much I'm sure not only myself, but everyone here appreciates all of you sort of taking the time to answer in, in a way that you can and validly. And just thank you for all your comments. We're going to change topics now and get into a little bit more about what this conference is about, right? Real estate and technology. And how are each of your organizations empowering your agents, your team members through advanced technology? Anyone could go ahead and start.
I'll take that really quickly. So I enjoyed the Tom Ferry and the past panel on this. Warren Buffett is everyone kind of knows who Warren Buffett is. One thing that he says is hang out with people that are smarter than you and better behaved than you, and you will drift in that direction. So I already feel smarter sitting on the stage with you women. But when it comes to technology and incorporating it in, we decided at our organization that AI, and I'm talking all the way up to home services organization, is absolutely something we have to embrace. So we do extensive training on it. We do Tech Connect seminars and things like that. And one thing that really motivated me to embrace AI, and that is a Wall Street Journal article I read years ago about the most important things millennials and Gen Zs will seek out in a company. And you probably can guess what they are. Number one is being socially conscious on social issues. Number two is DEI and tech. And number three is having a purpose. So I think those are all incredibly important. And when you look, I think LC alluded to it on the last panel, $72 trillion in the next 20 years is going to be shifted in the great generational shift of wealth. $72 trillion. How do people amass, very wealthy people, how do they amass most of their wealth? With real estate, right? That's how many individuals, obviously the stock market, but let's face it, the real estate market has outpaced the stock market as of late, right? Here in Florida and in California too. So think about that. $72 trillion, even if you take a third of that, $24 trillion in real estate is going to be passed. That's what you need to focus on. And what's important to those generations, I myself have one Gen Zer and 3 millennials, and it's very, very important for them to work with companies where the values are around those concentric circles with technology, sustainability, purpose, and social issues. So you got to get on board with technology, or you're, like Tom Ferry said, you're out.
Definitely. You have to have a forward-thinking organization. There's no question.
So I will tell you a little bit about some things that you might not know. How many of you have heard of the REACH program? Not very many. Okay, so that's the for-profit side of the National Association of Realtors, and it's under the umbrella of the Second Century Ventures. We have 230 companies under that umbrella, of which we are invested in all of them, and one of them is Propy. So Natalia has been a part of our REACH program, and we thank you for that, wherever you are, Natalia.
And as I heard, it has provided incredible opportunities for Propy and Natalia, which is amazing.
Well, and the thing that's really cool about it, especially if you're not even aware of this, is that we are in the UK, Latin America, Australia, Canada, of course, in the United States, and we continue to grow. We've always said that we are not a tech company, we're an association. We're a trade association. So we need those people that are smarter than we are to create things that work for us as realtors. So keep that in mind when you're inventing something. And then we work with realtors who are the guinea pigs to kind of look at these things and say, yeah, this is good, or you might fix or change that. It's really a cool program. Is Ashley Stinton in here? I thought she was going to be here from NAR, but she's very involved and would be a great person to talk to if you have a need, or you can always reach out to me and I'll direct you in the right direction. But it's a really cool thing you can also find, again, at nar.realtor.
Thanks.
Awesome. So I want to talk to you guys a little bit from the realtor perspective as a team lead, and to those of you in the room that are solo practitioners. At the end of the day, nobody's going to take you by the hand and show you how to make money. Nobody is. You have to get your butt out there and get in there and figure out what's happening again tomorrow. I've always prided myself as being a total nerd, super nerdy. I love my spreadsheets, and I try to lead by example. One thing I did last year, it hasn't even been a full year yet, I was the first agent in the country to get my entire team certified through Propy with the crypto. And it was really cool because it was the same week the FTC collapsed. Guess how much media publicity we got because of that? It was not my intent going in there, but I will always be looking at what's happening tomorrow and trying to bring it to my team so that we incorporate it before anybody else does. Back at home, I was doing short sales before the majority of my competitors were. So for the first few years, I cleaned house, and in an environment that most people thought was terrible, I had tons of business. So it's upon us, our own selves, to figure out how we're going to achieve tomorrow, and that is definitely through technology. I encourage all of you guys to research everything you can, gobble it up, and invest in yourselves. That's the one theme we keep hearing over and over and over again today, and I'm sure we will continue to. Be a nerd and be proud of it. There you go.
And you know, on the subject of investment, I'm glad you brought that up. How many women in this room have worked with investor clients, who's a real estate agent and worked with several investor clients? Please raise your hand. Now, how many of you actually invest in properties yourself? All right, that's good. How many of you have an active investment tech portfolio? Only a few hands in the room. Well, we know you do. But I mean, seriously, guys, did you know that men are 7 times more predisposed to put money into a startup than a woman is? Why is that? Why are we not taking advantage of this amazing shift in technology that we're all in right now? We should all be taking a piece of this pie. So, you know, at the Propy Foundation, we are extremely dedicated to fostering knowledge, specifically to women. We've partnered with Miami-Dade College to provide free financial literacy courses. Why did we do this? Well, one,
That's
because
amazing.
Thank you. We did this because, one, we wanted to give back to the community. 2, we built our entire net worth through real estate. So it's something that I felt that once I got to a certain point in my life, I wanted to give back to my local community and share it with other women, and especially minorities, on how to build personal financial wealth. And so I think that knowledge is power. We are in a very, very important time in history where if you are investing in the right places at the right time, you can 5x, 10x, 20x, whatever your wealth, if you're concentrated. So I encourage all of you in this room. I know it's overwhelming to try something new, to invest in something new, but go to networking events, come to things like this that have an intersection between technology and real estate, and start to dabble in other things, to start to learn more. And I just challenge you to lift other women up, especially nothing to say about the guys in the room. You guys are doing great already, but I really want to see those numbers in women investment go up. So please take advantage of everything that you have in front of you today, and all the women and other people, and, you know, network and learn more about investing. We need to see more women like Medina in Miami.
No, I love that. I mean, amen, amen. We have to promote each other. And like you said, this is not a knock on men. This is just, the numbers are the numbers, right? And the data doesn't lie. And even in investing in tech startups, it's still the VC dollars are still predominantly going to male founders. So
it's like less than 2% for females to get funded. It's
exactly
ridiculous.
So we're coming up on time, but I do want to end with one question for all of you. I know that all of you, promote female leadership in your teams. I think it's incredible. And just if you could leave everyone with, a piece of advice, or why is it so important to mentor, recruit, and onboard, female-led teams in each of our organizations? And then unfortunately, we have to wrap up this amazing discussion.
So I will tell you, I was the first and only president in 116 years to preside over a majority female leadership team at NAR.
Woo, woo, woo. Yeah.
And part of that was intentional. 5 of the officers are elected, 2 are appointed, and I'm the only woman to ever appoint 2 women vice presidents. So I got a good start, 3 out of 7. So I just needed 1 more, and our treasurer ended up being a woman, so that helped. But we are a member of the largest trade association in the world. When I was president, we had 1.6 million members. 2/3 of our members are women. But that's not what you see in our leadership. And you don't see that across the board in leadership anywhere, even when we're 2/3. And it's not to say that, men don't do a great job. They do. I work with amazing men. But what I will say is there are also a lot of amazing women that aren't being given opportunities. And that's something I've worked really hard at, empowering women. And it's amazing to see them shine.
Thank you.
I love all of that. And I just want to just say for myself, I'm the youngest of a big family. And for some reason, I'm the one that everything always falls back on in my family. And I think I'm just like the scary little sister. But, there shouldn't be anything different about us versus guys. It really shouldn't. It's just because we don't have some levels in our pants, that doesn't mean nothing. At the end of the day, we are as powerful as we believe we are. And I am a true believer in manifesting our own destiny. I said it earlier, and I know through my own example that I set, I'm going to help raise my daughters in a manner that they aren't going to take any crap from nobody. And I don't care what sex you are. That's just how you should live. Amen.
Yes.
I want to be respectful of our times. I know we have to go to the next session, but I would just leave it at this. Come to more events like this, network, and just take the first step. Take the first step because nobody can help you but you. Okay? Thank you all.
I agree with all of these brilliant women up here. And I will tell you, I know Leslie and I have been in this business for 30 plus years. And things are very different now. And women have a lot of opportunities that they didn't have in the past. I'll tell you one thing that I know most strong women have in their fiber of who they are. And that is, if someone tells you no, I double down and I'm going to do it twice as good. So I use that as my jet fuel. So for any of you women that have been, I don't know, mean girls splained or mansplained or anything put in a corner, in a box, whatever it may be, stand up to that and stand up for your rights. And by the way, you don't have to be a woman to support women's issues. So that's what I'm saying.
Amazing. You heard it here. Don't take no for an answer. Manifest your own destiny. And thank you all for being an inspiration and such incredible leaders. Thank you all, and excited to see what's next.
Should we leave these on the chair?
I think so, yeah.
Check.
Here you go. How are you doing? Are you hungry yet? The lunch will be a little bit delayed, but you can have snacks right away, not waiting for the lunch break, as the agenda is running a little bit late. But the next two sessions will be very different from what you've heard so far. We will dive into more blockchain technological changes and the new trend that is happening currently in the space, real world assets. Make notes because we'll have exceptional speakers, doers in the space. The next panelist, we're honored to have Ari Paul, who is the founder and the managing partner of Block Tower. It's an investment manager of $1.6 billion of assets. An incredible journey. Ari, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Natalia. Hello, everyone. So I'm probably the dumbest person on real estate in the room. I'm going to be talking to you about topics that are probably a little bit afield of the core focus today, but that are topics that I can talk about a little more intelligently and hopefully in an interesting way for you all. I'm going to split my talk kind of in two. First, talking about big picture markets, global macro, and the crypto market cycle in a very succinct, brief way, and hopefully leaving you all with a few useful, interesting data points or takeaways. And then the second half, I'll talk about the real world assets theme through the credit lens. My firm, Block Tower, I'll talk just about 20 seconds about it so you kind of know where I'm coming from. We started as a cryptocurrency investment firm 6 years ago. We've then grown into kind of just a general multi-asset management firm that includes a traditional credit franchise where we invest in traditional credit, but that taps into cryptocurrency for prime brokerage, for financing of things like tranched assets and ABS. So I'm ignorant of much of the work that Natalia and many of you have been doing on the real estate side, but I can talk somewhat intelligently about the credit side. And there may be some interesting parallels that you can draw. So starting with markets and macro, for me, I think we're likely looking at something like the 1970s as a decade. And what I mean by that, which is not a contrarian view, many Wall Street sell-side research reports say similar. Basically, we're seeing it play out, rising inflation concerns, rising volatility, rising geopolitical risk. And it's interesting to see this play out in real time. The concern about Israel-Palestine, for example, is not what happens there in terms of global markets, but the spillover effects that we're seeing potentially with Iran, Syria, Jordan, Saudi Arabia. And basically, that's all part of the same macro theme set, which is governments being under very tight pressure from their massive debt overhang, competitive currency depreciation, and basically rising risk aversion globally. We're also working through massive bubble backlogs. So VC, venture capital as an asset class, was one of the biggest bubbles in human history 2 years ago. And I think people still don't fully appreciate just how big of a bubble it was. In cryptocurrency, where it was probably the most egregious, we saw seed stage projects that basically had no chance of success getting $100 million seed financing rounds. There were almost guaranteed losses led by the best VCs in the world, the biggest brand names. And basically valuations have come in, call it 80%. They're probably still too high in most of the sexy themes to venture capitalists. Similarly with sovereign debt, we had things like long dated UK sovereign debt, the safest stuff in the world, fell 80% over the last 2 years, 80% collapse in some of that sovereign debt. But still could be much further to go in many emerging markets in many parts of the world. So the way I'm personally investing and managing my own finances is very different from 5 years ago when we were in an era of free money, of easy leverage, of basically almost zero risk aversion. For me personally, what makes sense is kind of a barbell approach, hard assets, which is certainly a theme that I think many people are in favor of. Things like real estate, gold, maybe Bitcoin is part of that, as well as cash flow. Cash flow is king in these kinds of environments. And entrepreneurship and business building, if you're building cash flow occurring businesses, for me is kind of part of that right tail hedge on the inflationary scenario. Turning to the cryptocurrency markets, I like using a baseball analogy for where I think we are in like a bull market or a bear market. I think we're in something like the third inning of a bull market in cryptocurrency. And what I mean by that, most asset classes through history, you go back 500 years, you look at whether it's commodities, equities, credit, different countries, different centuries, there's certain patterns that arise from psychology. So typically bull markets start with strong hand value institutional buying. But like buying real estate in 2008, where it's just attractive, the cash flows are attractive. Smart money says this is just a good value buy. Then it becomes a little bit of a common sense wisdom. This is how you allocate if you're a pension, if you're Wall Street, if you're a mutual fund. Then it usually becomes a retail frenzy if it's going to be a bubble. So in cryptocurrency, every cycle where we've had kind of a big bubble blow off top, it always ends with a retail frenzy that's very visible in the data. For example, at the end of 2017, the last leg of the rally was South Korean retail. And you can see that very clearly in where the bids were coming from, exchange data. And basically that's kind of the dumb money. That's the retail money buying into the meme that usually marks the end of a cycle. So in cryptocurrency, what we're seeing today is relatively low volumes, relatively little interest, relatively illiquid, weak product market fit, weak usage, all pretty negative, but all pattern matches to kind of the early stage of a recovery. And we've been seeing over the last 2 months a steady tick up in all of those variables. The things exciting the cryptocurrency industry today are things like the BlackRock Bitcoin ETF that's about 90% to be approved in the next 6 months to help usher in more institutional interest and inflows. If history repeats, which I think it likely will over the next 3 years for cryptocurrency, that price appreciation in assets like Bitcoin then triggers public interest. You have your New York Times and Wall Street Journal articles every day saying Bitcoin hits a new all-time high. That triggers retail interest. Price appreciation triggers greed. So people then say, I don't just want a 2x or a 5x, I want a 10x or a 100x. So they move down the risk curve. I want to be mindful of my time. So yeah, my take, I'm not a cryptocurrency cheerleader, by the way. I don't tell people, mortgage your home and put your life savings into it and sell your firstborn. But today, there have been many points in history where I've said, I don't know if it's a great entry. Personally, I think this is a pretty attractive entry, but risks abound. Shifting now to the RWA, where I'll get much more in the weeds and a lot more technical. So my firm 2 years ago got very bullish on this as a concept, as a theme. And I basically wanted to, in my head, I'm like, I kind of want to bet half my firm on this theme, on this idea, on this concept. And I'm really an investor. I'm a geek. I'm not a salesman. I'm not really an executive. So for me, I think first through the lens of investment, and there was almost nothing to invest in. There were very, very few companies in existence. You had a few companies like Propy, but not many quality teams fundraising, very few liquid assets to invest in. So we turned our attention possibly even to entrepreneurship on the theme. And over the last year and a half, we've tokenized about 1.4 billion in assets. I'll clarify what that means. So most of that are T-bills, treasury bills. We've tokenized about 1.2 billion of those. And we've done another about 250 million of asset-backed credit securities, mostly bundled consumer loans. And we've done that in two forms. One is we have this traditional credit fund that's buying those asset-backed securities. And we then tokenize them and sell them or place them with a stablecoin operator called MakerDAO. MakerDAO is a big cryptocurrency project with a multi-billion-dollar valuation. The purpose of it is to create a dollar-pegged stablecoin that doesn't need dollars as collateral, that can be operated in a decentralized way. I don't know if MakerDAO will exist in 5 years. It's certainly a good faith, promising, very interesting project. The key point, I think, at this stage is that on the credit side, we haven't really tokenized anything. So I just threw out big numbers of what we, Blocktower, have tokenized. The reality is those tokens are not transferable for regulatory reasons. One of the biggest headaches in the space on this theme, as we all deal with, is the regulatory side. And really that kicks in, at least for what we're working on, around permissioning of transferability, basically AML KYC. And I'm pretty practical in how I think about compliance and regulation. Navigating cryptocurrency as an entrepreneur, as an asset manager, certainly requires some flexibility in the gray area. Basically, I was thinking if I should say this, if this is recorded, basically the SEC is one thing, DOJ is another. When we talk about the financial regulations around, for example, security offerings, that's usually civil. It's very questionable whether the SEC might even win in court. Whereas things like AML KYC are often, do not pass go straight to jail kind of stuff. So there's a race by us and many other players in this to figure out the right regulatory compliance structures so that we can offer this to institutions, to SoFi. We can package these loans and sell them to, a traditional hedge fund. And those are mostly unanswered questions today. Some of that will be very path dependent on upcoming legislation, upcoming regulation. The next election in the US matters because it may result in regime change for the SEC administration. So that's kind of an unsolved question, but there's a lot of smart people racing ahead. As one example of an attempt at solving this, there's a project that's using a German regulatory arb, basically a German regulatory framework, to tokenize securities that will then be permissionlessly transferable throughout the European Union. Natalia, I'm not sure exactly when I started, so feel free to give me a time warning. I'm probably just gonna monologue until someone tells me to stop. Let's see. So yeah, all the tokenization so far, effectively just a wrapper. What do we need to make it real? What do we need to make this actually disruptive of prime brokerage at traditional Wall Street? So my goal, what I'm betting on, is that over the next 10 to 15 years, we create an alternative system to Wall Street prime brokerage, which is basically a 60 to 80-year-old system that's a crazy Rube Goldberg machine. Anyone who's ever had to deal with bond settlement, it involves 18 different financial players as part of a stack. Everyone's using old, outdated software and standards, and you can't change anything because everything is so interconnected. So it's a little bit like bootstrapping an electric car, where you have the problem of all the existing infrastructure is gas stations, right? So you can't sell an electric car without the charging stations, you can't have charging stations without the cars. So how do you bootstrap that? So it's creative problem solving around the initial product market fit. I really like to think about, I love the 0 to 1 Peter Thiel kind of framing of, okay, Amazon wanted to build what they built, but how do you get started? And Amazon sold antique books that Barnes & Nobles didn't sell as their little 0 to 1, footstep. So what Block Tower has done is very similar. We haven't done anything real on the theme. What we've done is with a lot of hard work, solve a little mini coincidence of once to help bootstrap, to help find that product market fit, to help subsidize all of the engineering and compliance work that's ongoing and going to come over the next few years. The main things we need to do to make this real, right now, when we have these tokenized T-bills or tokenized asset-backed securities, all the real work is happening within the traditional financial system. The bond servicing, the custody, the bond math and calculations, the fund administration. We basically just have this little token sitting on top. So one by one, those pieces need to get moved, integrated into a separate system, an on-chain system, so that all of this is gets all the value benefits that I think many people in the room have been hearing about all day and are fully aware of: transparency, 24/7 settlement. All of those benefits only arise if enough of the system is on-chain and separate. Otherwise, the bottleneck remains the traditional system. So the ones we've identified as those kind of next precursors, having bond math calculated on-chain, having data and API standardization. So a challenge in cryptocurrency in almost every area is we have a million competing standards and no one knows what the standard will be in 3 years. And so if you're JP Morgan, you're very reluctant to invest a year of engineering time connecting to an API feed when you have no idea if that's going to be the API feed you care about in 2 years. So it's a race right now to build these kind of basic financial primitives, engineering primitives, standardizing things like the data of how you even report bond, let's say bond delinquencies. How do you report that? How do you process it? We need all the players in the ecosystem on one or two probably, identical standards, or at least ones that can interact with each other in a healthy way. Many other pieces of the bond servicing stack, we definitely can't do this all at once. This is going to be over 10, 20 years. Many other pieces, I think, are likely to play out as hybrid or piecemeal. So for example, we may be able to, I see I have my clock. Thank you so much. As an example, servicing delinquent bonds. How do you do that? How do you automate that? You probably can't fully automate it, but maybe we can decentralize it. Maybe you can create incentives where regional broker-dealers are incentivized to get a delinquent bond performing. And maybe we can create an incentive system where that can actually be done in a decentralized marketplace kind of way. If that sounds pie in the sky and ambitious, I don't disagree. Those are the things I'm thinking about more 5 to 10 years out, which may or may not ever play out. Let's see, I'll end with how I'm trying to think about this in the product market fit sense. So with MakerDAO and what Block Tower's done so far, it was targeting, it was a lot of work to identify a problem we could solve at all. So for me, the process was interesting. My first thought was, hey, I can go to any credit fund manager and say, if you give me $100 million of bonds you currently have, and I can get you 30 basis points of savings or value on top, wouldn't you give me all your money? And their answer was no, because Wall Street finances rated securities cheaper than cryptocurrency can. So we really had to fight to find the coincidence of once between basically create a value proposition for an average credit investor. Credit investors don't want to underwrite new tech. They don't want to underwrite new platforms. If you're investing in Microsoft, you don't want to take crazy startup risk alongside it, right? Why would you? So it's a lot of work to both make this frictionless and as close to riskless as possible with things like ancillary risks. So we've been able to structure things where we're taking zero risk to cryptocurrency. That takes a lot of kind of complex and very detail-oriented work. And then you have to prove it, right? It's not enough to say that. You have to be able to prove it to a Goldman, to a JP Morgan, which is an immense amount of work. So a key thing is thinking about what is that initial 0 to 1 value proposition? How do we get that initial interest? And it's a different answer, I think, for each segment. So for institutions, it's part of my language. It's a lot of cover your ass. You need all the boxes checked. You need to have a 50-page document that gets their legal team comfortable, that you've researched every legal element. So it's brand, but in a very different way than retail. And you need to be able to check 1 million of these institutional boxes about how it interacts with all of their service providers, all their systems. For retail, it's almost the opposite. I actually think, for example, that risk-adjusted yields don't matter to retail. Retail kind of just responds to the headline yield. So you're looking for very different elements of quality of product. For retail, it's just convenience. So some of the things we're looking at for bootstrapping this is, for example, integrating with existing platforms, whether that's a Coinbase or a SoFi, and having a product that's like a money market fund that they can seamlessly move in and out of. An example of how this is going wrong right now and why the opportunity is so big is you have, I don't know how many people in the room are, actually, if you're familiar with Tether, could you raise your hand? Gotcha, okay, great. I didn't know quite how crypto native the crowd was. So Tether is basically a hedge fund, a credit hedge fund that takes plenty of risk, that does asset selection, that engages in active trading, where all of the returns are kept by the principals. Any losses are borne by the stablecoin holders. It's basically like the worst credit hedge fund structure in the world. And why does that exist? And why does it have more than $40 billion? Well, it has more than $40 billion. Thank you. I'll 30 seconds. Basically, the regulatory side that has made it difficult for stablecoins and things like an on-chain credit fund to actually pay out yield or cash flows to investors. Basically, as soon as you're paying out yield or cash flow, you're in whole different regulatory regimes, has made that so far near impossible in crypto. That'll change. My point is, we already see there's more than $50 billion of interest for the worst possible version of this product. Thank you.
Thank you, Ari. Can you hear me well? Yes. Wasn't it mind-blowing? Who of you have heard about Bitcoin ETFs? Only 30% of the room? Do you know that the next crypto bull run is coming? Yes, you're hearing about that. And the reason for that, there are a number of reasons, of course, but the institutional capital has been waiting for Bitcoin ETFs, and most likely the deadline for approval is in January, so most likely it will happen by the end of the year or early January. And thus we'll see more and more real-world assets coming on chain. And the next panel will touch upon Bitcoin ETFs as well as real-world assets, what it means, why this new trend is gradually building up its momentum. We'll have 2 speakers on Zoom, so let's make sure we'll have Zoom on here on the main stage, please. Let's get ready. In person, though, I will be moderating this panel together with Quinn Thompson. Welcome from Maples. Welcome. Thank you so much.